This is November 23rd, 2022, the day before Thanksgiving. And I found myself this morning uh, sympathizing with people, many of us, who will be meeting relatives, friends who we're not used to hanging with, uh, especially sitting down at Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow with friends and family of friends and friends of family and so forth, and how fraught that can be, how difficult it can be when we're mixing with people we wouldn't ordinarily choose to mix with, but because of our karmic affinity, here we are sitting down. This is it's just everyone knows this is the kind of a thing that many have written about, many have joked about, how to deal with this situation, and it is a challenging one. It can be, for sure. Who can expect when you get together at Thanksgiving, either at the table itself or flying in to see people or having people fly in to see us, who can expect that everything will go harmoniously? So I thought I might offer some advice, for what it's worth, based on life experience, of course, on what works better than other things or worse than other things. So these people we're seeing over Thanksgiving dinner or before or after uh, may have very different views than we do about any number of things. Politics, of course, partisan politics, religion. Oh, diet. That's can easily come up over dinner. Health, uh, books, movies, all kinds of ways that we're going to experience quite a lot of diversity when we sit down with these people. And naturally, there will be people, or almost certainly likely to be people, who we don't see as like-minded. And then in the course of conversation, especially if there's any alcohol served, then things can get interesting. So what I have found is that the worst mistake we can make is to try to persuade others who have different views from ours, to persuade them of the reason behind our own views. There's been so much research that concluded that we rarely can change anyone's mind through reason, through argument, through rational persuasion. It doesn't work, they say, these social scientists. It doesn't mean we can't skillfully offer a different perspective that might be helpful, especially if we hear things that are offensive to us, racist remarks or other things. In a way, we could say it's our obligation to speak up, but then how do we do that skillfully? This is really what Zen practice comes down to with other people, is skillful means. How do we help people skillfully? And from everything I've read, it's not going to be skillful if we argue and try to persuade people at length of our point of view. Unless, of course, if we can do so uh, dispassionately, if we're pretty sure we aren't attached to our view or opinion, we're not going to dig our heels in. There could be situations, yes, where both parties, the speaker and the listener, can find some meeting of the minds. So yeah, it depends on the situation. Um, and then if we don't seem to be getting anywhere, then we could ask ourselves, what is more important to us, being right or having a decent relationship, or at least a decent relationship over dinner? Uh, this is such a sensitive thing. How far do you go in offering a different point of view? Um, but I think it requires humility, that we're not going to make a lot of headway with most people who see things differently. The best thing we could do is to try to find common ground. How do you do that? You do the best you can. One one technique is you can use is deflecting or distracting. I'm reminded of seeing my sisters with their uh, children, a child on their hip, and the child is fussing and whining and crabbing, and seeing them uh, distract them with, "Hey, look at that bird out there," and the little girl or little boy stops and looks. Okay, these aren't children we're dealing with in these situations, but still, there's a way to sidestep something when we sense that we're not going to get anywhere. They're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to get anywhere. Can we artfully change the topic into something we might find common ground in? Last night, I found myself at the house of the condominium of some new friends, uh, sort of friends of friends. They invited Angela and me over for some hors d'oeuvres, and she was the hostess was 82, and her boyfriend, love that word, that English word, boyfriend. Her boyfriend was 90, and no sooner had we shaken hands than he started in on what he had done, the positions he had reached, his responsible positions in this field or that field. And I could see that he wasn't much interested in what either of us have done, but he was happy to keep talking about everything he had done. And so when I got a word in edgewise, I keyed off something he had said. He had mentioned something about baseball, and I said, "So, Bob, did you play sports?" And then that led to something else, and then that's something else, and I was able to get him out of this rut of just talking about himself. As a general proposition, you can't go wrong with asking questions. I mean, not intrusive questions, not probing questions in these situations, these light social situations. But instead of talking about oneself, which is what most people do, in my experience, not in the Sangha, but outside the Sangha, people love to hold forth. Men love to mansplain. People love to talk about themselves, their children, of course, and how much better it can be in bringing people together when we remember to ask questions. It shouldn't be unnatural with people we hardly know. Naturally, it's natural to ask questions. You don't have to ask what their occupation is. That can be a little bit inappropriate in some circumstances, but you can ask other things. Where do you live exactly? How long have you been here? Questions. Men, listen, because it's mostly men who have trouble asking questions. Ask questions and then roll with it. See what comes of that. That's my experience. It comes from a lot of failures in these social situations. And then listen. Listen when they're speaking, when they're answering the questions, or anytime. This is half of human social fulfillment is listening. The more we can listen, the more receptive we'll be, the more receptive they will be, the speaker, if they can see. And people can see, they can sense when we're listening. The more open and receptive they'll be. And then also, the more genuinely we are listening, more attentively we're listening, this will beget other questions we can ask the person. Okay, then what about questions about Zen, about Buddhism? Well, here's another area where there's so ways we can go wrong. Not wrong, that's mean where we may not play it very well. My own experience is that if someone asks you a question about Zen, answer very briefly. I found myself in another social situation recently where I mentioned that I was considering putting together a book down here in Florida, and the man said, "Well, what would the book be about?" And to my surprise, I said, "About how to live and how to die." I've never said that before, and well, we just went from there. But the first thing, as Roshi Kapleau always used to say, is to try to discern where the question is coming from. If it's a very superficial question, person is looking over your shoulder and looking here and looking there and just trying to keep some conversation going, then all the more reason to be very brief. But in some unusual cases, you may sense that the person is truly interested. And if so, then in response to your brief reply, they'll ask another question. And then, okay, now we have something going. Now you can build on what you said a little bit, and see where that goes. Maybe I have more experience at this because I'm an ordained priest, and people soon enough figure out, or they're told, what I do for a living. So maybe I get more of these kinds of questions than most of you might. But my own rule of thumb is to play hard to get. Have them be very reserved in talking about it, because in most cases there isn't much interest. And after all, there's so many other interesting things. We don't have to talk about religion, or plus one's own, much less one's own religion. That can be itself can be very fraught. And then going back to any kind of tension or disagreement that may come up, different views, politics or anything else, it can be good to develop some practice at humor. Find a way without being snide or anything like that, but find a way to come up with something that might be funny. If someone asked me a question about Zen at a Thanksgiving table, I would be especially brief about it, and then later see if the person, or maybe you might or might not want to say, well, maybe I could say a few more things later. I don't want to hog the conversation at the table, and then maybe see if the person comes back. But really, um, our answers to questions about Zen or Buddhism is way less important than what we are presenting in the way of attentiveness, in the way of responsiveness, in the way of interest, and how present we are. That goes much further than the way we answer questions in words. We want to demonstrate whatever we've come to embody about the Dharma. We want to have them see our understanding of Zen, such as it may be. Even after dinner, helping out with cleanup. And here I've found that rather than going in helplessly into the kitchen and saying to the host, what might I do to help? It's better if you can just look and see what needs to be done, and just roll up your sleeves and start doing it. And then if he or she, the host, would rather have you do something else, then she'll tell you. It has to be, of course, a sincere offer, a sincere effort to step forward and help the person. And the host might very well mean it when he says, no, please, you're our guest. We can do this later. There's no rush on this. Please join with the others or whatever. But it's another demonstration of our willingness to help, to be there to respond to what needs to be done. Finally, I would just say to try to remember that everyone wants connection. Whether they even know it or not, we all want connection with others. That's the basic premise. That's what makes this doable, is that we're all coming from the same place. We don't want to be fighting. We don't want to be alone, isolated. We want to find ways of connecting. There's some words of wisdom that I've never forgotten. I saw it somewhere. I think it was at a hotel somewhere. It was ascribed to I don't remember. Doesn't Calvin Coolidge, I think. Doesn't matter, because I looked it up and found that it was the most likely attribution was to some 19th century Scottish clergyman. But in any case, it doesn't matter really, because I hope that everyone can appreciate the wisdom behind this. And here's what the words were: be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Well, thanks for listening. and good luck.